You're watching the Boost Cut podcast on Low Boost Films.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Boost Cut podcast. I'm really excited to have this guest on today because I've followed a lot of his builds for a number of years, and he was a really big influence with me doing my Turbo LS swap. I got Supra Williams, Kyle from Boosted Lifestyle. If any of you guys have ever heard about him, he's got a great YouTube channel, a funny ass TikTok, and a great Instagram. So welcome today, Kyle.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. I really want to thank you for coming on and talking some cars for a little bit. I want to tell you that the first video I watched from your YouTube was your budget turbo 5.3 build. I watched the entire thing.
Yeah, that seems where most people came into it, and you'll notice it reflected in my subscribers, but that seems where most people came into it. Funny thing is, the thing that got me started was my Supra, and like nobody knows me for having a Supra. My name's Supra Williams. It's super confusing nowadays.
I know, but you know what? Like, then I went back and looked at some of your videos that you had on the Supra. I'm like, oh, okay. He's got two JZs and LSs just all around his garage. It's really cool. That's actually one of the questions I want to ask you. Actually, is what do you think is easier to work on, the 2JZ or your LS engines?
This is actually a difficult question. Normally, for most V8 engines, I would say that they are harder to work on than the 2J because everything in the 2J is separated into two banks where you got the intake on one side and the exhaust on the other. And there's just so much room to get like under the intake or under the exhaust. But with the LS, because it's got the single cam, it's just so easy to get on both sides as well. It's almost easier to work on the LS until you have to pull the heads, I guess.
Yeah.
And then the 2J.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that. Yeah, I watched that LS build because I was in the process of doing mine before I even had a car. I had an LQ4 Iron 6.0, and I was working on it in my storage unit before I even decided to start filming and making a YouTube channel on it. And then I realized like I'm okay at filming stuff, and I can remember to hit the record button, which I think is everybody's biggest problem when they want to start a YouTube channel. They did all this cool shit and they never recorded it. So I watched your entire thing, your whole thing. I ended up getting a Brian Tooley Stage 1 turbo cam based off of watching your videos. So, and if anybody hasn't checked it out, his build series on his LS, from tearing it down to putting the cam in and everything, is as in detailed as you'll find on YouTube. It really is probably one of the best videos for watching somebody do an LS engine. And it was your first time really doing it, right?
Yeah, the premise behind that whole LS series, like the same with you. I had the engine before I even had the car, and my thought was, I'm going to buy this engine and I'm going to figure out how it works by taking it apart and then rebuilding it back up the best that I know how. And obviously I went through some troubles building it back up, and it's been torn down a couple of times since then. I had some piston rings that had a little bit of damage to them, and I cracked one piston. And I mean, the whole premise behind the build was I want to learn how to do this. And usually the best way I know how to learn how to do things is like, it's a weird term to use, but I like to fail upwards, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Yeah, I'll do something and I'll fail at it, but I'll fail forward where my failing actually leads to me learning how to do something more.
Yeah.
And
now, go ahead.
That was the whole thing behind this LS build was like, I want to learn how to do it. I don't want to pay someone to do something for me that most people can do by themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And, failing upwards is, that's a term I've heard before. And, a lot of times that's the best way to do it. But speaking of upwards, from watching when you first started to do that project to your fabricating skills on a welder comparatively to now has grown exponentially. I mean, if anybody like your welding now is amazing. And, I'm starting to do welding now. I don't have a TIG. I got a MIG welder, and just to do body panels and stuff. And, just watching your progression of being able to weld is inspiring to, I think, not even just me, but probably a lot of people like, wow, he taught himself how to do this. And now you have your, can I call you Dr. Octo Turbo?
You can definitely call me Dr. Octo Turbo.
I may Photoshop your face on Dr. Octopus and put it on the green screen behind me. Like that's, and I know like you get some hate on it, but I'm like, you know why he's doing an Octo Turbo? Because he can. Like, of course, why not?
And
what inspired you to do that?
I would have called it Octo Turbo as well, except I don't think many people are searching on YouTube for Octo Turbo instead of like 8 Turbo.
No, that kills your searchability for sure.
Yeah, well, I started that build because last year you'll notice that I did the 4 Turbo Honda Civic.
Yeah. Oh my God. See, your YouTube channel like exploded off of that.
Yeah, and it was just a dumb idea where I didn't have the idea myself. I seen that Haggard Garage video where they put 4 turbos on something, but they did it so bad where they didn't run oil feed or return lines or anything like that. And I was like, this idea can work if you put a bit of time and effort into it. And I wanted to prove to everybody that I could do it. So I was like, I'll front the bill on this one. I'm going to do this. We're going to make some power with it. It'll make at least positive boost. And then we ended up making like 411 wheel horsepower on the dyno at 20 pounds.
It's a lot for it. Was a B18, right?
It was a B16.
Oh, B16. Okay, and that's a lot.
Yeah, and I feel like the limiting factor there was our displacement because we actually clamped those wastegate shuts where we screwed them all the way tight where they wouldn't open at all with any boost.
Okay.
And we just ran it out as hard as we could, and that thing would only make like 19 or 20 pounds of boost at like 8,200 RPMs, and
it's just not enough to force 4 turbos. If you had a B18 or a K24, probably would even.
Yeah, anything with a little bit more displacement, and I feel like we would have been able to make as much boost as we wanted to.
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember I'm scrolling through Instagram and I see your quad turbo Civic on 1320, and I'm like, oh, it's about to go down. Because I already watched it. I already knew you were making it, and then I saw it on Street Race Channel, or is it 1320? I'm like, oh, okay, that's great. That did great things. For your YouTube channel, you got almost as many subscribers as Sloppy Mechanics does now. You got a really great following going on.
Yeah, it's going up there. And funny thing is, last year this time is when we did that quad turbo Civic build.
Yep.
And it was within a couple of days when it was like 1320 video and that racing channel, and everybody just started reposting it. I was looking at my subscriber count, like 3,000 and 4,000 subscribers per day, and I was like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah.
My problem is I stopped doing stuff like that, like the crazy outrageous stuff, after I finished the Honda, and I started on Tokyo's Malibu build, which I thought was super cool and super fun, and it was going to be able to progress me to the next level in my fabricating career, but nobody wanted to watch it.
It was a cool build. It was a cool, but it was a Malibu, and more people, like, it wasn't as people have done that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like no one's on a quad turbo Civic. Like, well, one other person did, and they didn't really do a great job of it, right? But like, so I liked the Malibu. I had no problem. Like, I watched it. It was cool. But like you said, it's been done. People done twin turbo V8s before, right?
And for me personally, that's kind of what I wanted to work on and what I wanted to film, because I wanted to make great fab work. Yeah. And then this year, I was like, hey, this worked so well last time, and it's kind of been on the back of my mind for this whole year now. And winter's coming up, and we don't really have anything to do. Let's try this again, but let's double it up on the turbos, double it up on the cylinders, double it up on the displacement, and we'll see if we can actually make power with this thing.
Oh yeah. It's similarly, I'm in the opposite problem. So if you've seen mine, I have an E36. It's a Turbo LS. And I couldn't fit an S475 under the hood, and I wanted it to be a sleeper. So we ended up, my buddies from Savage Speed Garage, which are local to us, and they did all the fabrication work with the welding, and then they taught me how to weld with a MIG a little bit too. But most of my welds that I did, I wrap with heat wrap, so you can't see it.
Heat wrap or a grinder.
Oh yeah, but actually both. I did both. We ended up hanging the turbo under the driver's side light, so it sits really, really low. But I couldn't fit the S475, so I got a S372 with a 1.00 AR, but it's a 6-liter. So that my torque curve, it's like a freaking diesel truck. I make 700 pound-feet of torque at 4,000 RPM and 487 wheel at 6,500.
Yeah, that sounds exactly like the Malibu build. We totally underestimated how small those turbos were. I was like, these GT35s are going to be perfect. We'll get them for $200 on Amazon. They'll be here in like 3 weeks, and we'll slap them on, and it'll make 600 horsepower. Will be good. And then it gets to the dyno, and much like yourself, the thing made like 990 foot-pounds at 4,000 RPM on like 8 degrees of timing.
The rods must hate that, too.
The rods must hate that. So immediately after that dyno, I was like, hey, look at it. We're going to put twin 69mm turbos on this thing.
Yeah. That's what my buddy has on his RX-7. He's got twin 69s. Yep.
Yeah, and then I started doing the math, and I was like, wait, that's like 1,600 horsepower worth of turbos we're going to put on this thing.
Yes. Yeah, that's a lot.
So to be determined how that's going to work out for us.
Yeah, I don't really realize. And, when I bought my S475 for my 6-liter, and the S372 flows what the S475 does, but it's got a smaller AR, and it's a 1.00. If it was a 4.8 liter, it probably would have been fine. But I need a better boost controller. I have Holley Terminator X now, and I'm going to do boost by RPM, and hopefully that solves some of my boost problems, because I'm like, even on 93, it's only on 93. I'm trying to make like 15 pounds of boost, and anything over 5,000 RPM, it's just like back at 8. It's like, no, we don't want to do this.
Oh, yeah. You definitely need some boost control in there. Then the Holley's perfect for that. I always advocate the Holleys for the LS. It's like the cheapest. I've said this on my channel probably a million times now. I said the cheapest way to go fast is find some, like a proven chassis like a Mustang, where you can pick them up for $4,000 or $5,000 here and there, and they've already got some suspension work. And then you buy your LS, you get your Holley, and you get your VS Racing Turbo, and you're basically anywhere between 600 to 1,000 horsepower for pennies on the dollar of what you would have spent doing any other swap.
That's all for this episode of my podcast with Kyle from Boosted Lifestyle. Make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on the next episode that I do with Boosted Lifestyle this coming Monday. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.